Hello and welcome to my video about security in a school management Java application. In this video I'm going to give some background to my project, the technologies used throughout, setting up the project, and a demonstration of the application on two different operating systems. And finally I will discuss some of the findings of my project and the implications of these for the future of the project. My background of the project is that I'm a second level science teacher and have been a written examiner for Leaving Cert Biology for the past 5 years. And in that time I have marked physical scripts and online scripts using a web application. My background and this experience as an examiner is the inspiration for this project. I looked further into technology in education today, and there is a major movement to online learning and replacement of traditional methods. Looking at some research that was carried out, it is clear that as technology increases in education, security requirements also increase. Valuable research is sought after in higher educational institutes, and larger populations in schools equals large amounts of valuable data and a high probability of weak passwords. The main technologies used in the project were NetBeans IDE, MySQL Workbench, and Java Development Kit 17. NetBeans was used to create the application with JDK 17. AWT and Swing libraries are used for creating the user interfaces with all the different functionalities. MySQL Workbench was used to create the database and to see updates happen in the tables after functions were ran in the application. Visual Paradigm and GoodNotes were used for creating diagrams, planning, and note-taking. Mockaroo provided fake data for the database for testing. macOS was the operating system the project was carried out on, but the application was also tested on Windows 10. GitHub, Git, and Trello were all used to manage the project and keep records of the application and for version control. First off, we're going to navigate to my GitHub page where you will be able to download the source code by clicking on Code here and clicking Download Zip. Once you have this, you're able to open the README file to follow instructions to run the application. The README file can be seen here on the project page. The steps that are needed to be carried out are here. To run the application, you must run it on Windows or Mac. We must install NetBeans 12.5, MySQL Workbench 8.0 with developer packages selected at installation, and Java Development Kit 17. Once we have the source code from GitHub, we're able to run MySQL Workbench. We can then execute the database file results systemdb, which is located in the database folder of the downloaded file. We need to make sure that MySQL Workbench is connected to localhost 3306. We can then install Java Development Kit 17 on the system and then run NetBeans 12.5 and import the student result app folder. You might get an issue stating that the MySQL connector is not found. If this is the case, there is a copy of the jar file that is required to solve this within the application folder. Change the source file path to student result app dist library MySQL connector Java 8.030. In each of the source code files for the classes, you will have to update the variables related to the database to match your MySQL username, password, and connection path. You will find these under the comments connection to database fill in on all classes. You should now be able to run the application in NetBeans and it should start up. There are login accounts already prepared in the database file, but login credentials are as follow. To log in as a root user, the email is root@root.ie and the password is password. The administrator user, you can use john@test.ie and the password is also password. And for a teacher user, you can log in with the email test@datatester.ie with the password password1. You can also execute the mock data file found in the database folder, and this will populate the tables with more data. Each of these users can also be logged into the system once the file has been executed. Here we're going to show how to add the database to MySQL Workbench. We click on local instance 3306. We can see here the details that we use later on for filling in the source code. Here is part of the file path, the username for MySQL, and we're going to enter our password for MySQL to start up the local instance. What we're going to do then is navigate to the project folder that we've downloaded and move into the database folder. Here we're able to see our two SQL files, and we're going to open the results database in MySQL Workbench. And once we execute it here, we'll see that there is no compiling issues, and when we refresh the schemas, the results system is appearing here as a database, and also the tables have been loaded. Now to add the student result app to NetBeans. Once we've opened up NetBeans, we're going to be greeted with a startup page here. Already the student result app from GitHub is present here, but I'm going to add a copied version that I have on my system, so that will represent the file that you've already downloaded. So we're going to right click on the side panel here and click open project. Here we're able to navigate then to, would say, the project. So my project copy is here, and click on the student result app and click open the project. Here we're then able to see the different source packages here. Now once we click into one of them here, it should bring us to any of the interface that we click on. So one of the ones here will look like this. This is what we should get as the source code. You may get an error stating that there is a package missing for connecting to the MySQL Java jar file, in which case then a pop-up will appear on screen asking to give the source file path. I've included this in the project folder here, which if you navigate into here and then distance and then into the lib folder, you'll see then MySQL connector Java 8.030, and click in here, and we are going to change our file source path to the jar file here. Once we have opened up each of the different classes that make up the application, we're going to look at then this comment here, connections to the database, and fill in on all the other classes here. What we need to change is we need to change the username, password, and data connection that matches up our details on MySQL. Root is most likely going to be the username of the MySQL you're using, and this is most likely going to be the file path, but this may need updating. All that is most likely need to be changed though is just the password here. You must enter the password that you use to sign into your local instance. You should then be able to click run, and the application should start then. So here I am showing a administrator user logging into the system, and it is the administrator user that is given within the database. Next I'm going to show how a teacher logs into the system using the teacher account that is provided in the database. Now I'm showing how the reset button works on both the teacher and admin login interface here. Each time it's clicked, it'll reset the characters within it. Here is the exit button, which is seen on both the teacher and administrator interface that log in. So now we're logged in as a teacher user who can only view the student list, and also they can see all the student grades. Logging as a teacher user, we're going to look at each of the student grades and try changing a subject. We're going to change the subject to German. And we're also going to change the percentage to 100%. Notice that the subject was biology, and it is still biology. Only their percentages change. As a teacher can only change the percentage, they cannot change the subject. If we take a look at MySQL, we'll see there that only the percentage was changed in the table. Next we're going to take a look at the administrator face, and we are going to add a new student to the student table. So we're just going to fire in a new student here. And when we're adding a new student, we must make sure they have a unique student number. Perfect. So we can see here that when we're after adding a student and we click on a different row, it'll change the text boxes of the table. I'm going to log in here now again as an admin user. What we're going to do is we're going to change the address of the second student in the table. I'm going to change it to the point in Dublin, and when we update it, the result is after changing the address to the point Dublin 1. If we refresh the database, we can see here that testing has now been changed to the point Dublin 1. I'm going to log back in now again as an admin user. I'm going to use the user account that's provided again in the database. After try logging in now. We're going to select one of our rows and we're going to delete that entry. Once we delete an entry though, their data will remain in the text boxes until we click on a new row. Then that data is gone. So it's kind of a fail safe if we wanted to get and add back the student that we just removed. You have a few seconds to add them back in because they're still in the text boxes. So now we're going to log in as an admin user again here. We're going to give some subjects and results to the student with student ID S002. So we'll use the drop down to give them all different subjects, and now we're going to add some percentages. I'm just going to add the percentages here that are used in the test case for this. And when we add them, we can see here that their subjects and their grades are added. If we refresh then our table student grade, we'll see here that it's also reflected in MySQL. So now we're going to take a look at changing a student result here. So we'll log back in as an admin and go to the grade. We're going to select our student, and what we're going to do is we're going to change chemistry to French. We're going to give them a new grade of 70%. I'm going to update, and we'll see down there at the bottom, we see their French is after changing to 70%. I'm going to check our database now to see if that's after being reflected. And perfect, yeah, French is after being changed to 70%. We'll log back in as our admin user again, and we're going to take a look at the student grades here. I'm going to just remove that one after selecting it, and perfect, it's gone. And again, if we wanted to add it back in, our text box is already populated, so we can just click add again, and it's also removed from MySQL. Okay, so I'm going to log back in as our admin now and take a look at adding a teacher. So we're going to give them a teacher number that doesn't already exist on the database. I'm going to give them a new first name. I'm going to put in Harry Potter, and he teaches chemistry. Give him email. And the password. The password box here should really actually show stars. So that's going to be noted in our test case, and it's going to change in the final version because it shouldn't be rendered on screen, but we can see here that Harry Potter's now been added to the teachers table. I'm going to log back in as an admin user now again. And we're going to just make some updates to these details there. We're going to add some exclamation marks to the end. I'm going to change his subject to English and update it there. And perfect, his name, last name, subject and email has been changed, and now we'll see if it's reflected in the database. So now we're going to test this. We're going to test the teacher again here, and what we're going to do is just remove Harry Potter from the database, and as you can see he's gone. His details are still there if we wanted to add him back in again. So now we're going to move to Windows testing. So Windows testing was carried out using all the same methods that was set up on Mac. We had to make sure that we had NetBeans installed and JDK 17 and MySQL up and running, and all the connectors added to our classes. So we have each of the classes after being changed in NetBeans. So what we're going to do now is we're going to run through each of our different tests and make sure that each of the functionalities are still working on Windows. And we use all the login details again that is provided in the database file. Let's start with teacher. Okay, so rendering looks a tiny bit different on Windows. You can see that some of the colours are a little bit different compared to Mac. I've noticed that some of the boxes don't have the curved design. But all functionality so far working. Clicking on a row has added all the students' grades and subjects here. We're just going to try and see, can we update a student's grade here now as a teacher to change all the grades here, so it'll be obvious in the table below. And try changing the subject here from biology to French again. And perfect, exactly as we expected. Each of the grades are changing, but the subject did not change. See, can we log in now as our administrator? Might as well actually just check first and see if the database is reflected. And perfect, yeah, the database is after showing upgrades. to each of the grades. Now we'll log in as our admin user, john@tester.ie, perfect, and his password. And as an admin user now, we should be able to carry out each of our different functions. So you can see here we already have a student who is added in the database. We're going to see, can we add a new student? Make sure that we add a student with a new unique student number. And just add County Waterford as our address. And perfect, when we add them, they get added to the table below. See now if we can update their last name and see what happened if we try to update the student number. Change their county to Cork and just change the last few digits of the phone number. Give them a new first name-ish. And perfect, exactly as predicted. That did not seem to go through there. We're going to just try it again and see can we update them. Perfect, we could update them there because we needed to make sure their student number matched, and we just remove them there, and again their data remains in the text box. So if we want to add them again, perfect. Okay, see, can we give them, see, can we change some student grades first? Actually, we'll try and add some student grade first. Give them the 3 core subjects, and biology, French and German. I'll just give them some different grades so we can distinguish them from the first user. Perfect. So we're able to add grades for that student that we're after adding already. So Sean is added, and then we check to see, yeah, his results was added then to the database in MySQL. So now can we just change his subjects here? So he now decided to do physics instead of Irish. We'll just see if we change a few results there. Update. And perfect, yeah, his results are changed there, and his subject changed to physics. And if we remove it there, it deleted with no issue and stayed in the text boxes. So if we want to add it again, and it's removed from the database. Excellent, perfect. See if we can add it again there. Perfect, we added it again there. Try adding, see if we click on new teacher, the rows work, perfect. See, can we create a new teacher now? Say John Smith, and John will teach physics. Give him a new email, smith@gmail.com, and password. Password box needs to be changed to a password box there. Make sure that's not rendering the password on screen. But perfect, yeah, that function works there. Now see if we just update his name. Just change it to Sean, and we'll change that to Donald. We'll just change his email there to @hotmail.com. And the password. And French and update. Perfect. These details are updated there. Now see if we try to remove him from the system. And perfect, he has been removed. Okay, trying to test our root user, so we use the root user login details that are provided in the database. And click login, perfect. See now if we click on our root user, yeah, it populates the text boxes, and let's see if we can add a new one now. We'll create test again, and Give her last name Kearns. And Tess's email, tess@gmail.com, and she'll have a password of and add, and perfect. Yeah, tests have been added. See here now, if we refresh, perfect, and see here. Let's just map to MySQL, and now see if we update her to Tessa. Just remove the S of Kearns and change it to hotmail.com. Just give her a new password there. Perfect. See the stuff changing here on the table. And just double check now. And yep, I've changed there and change password. Perfect. See if we remove Tess now. Yep, and it's just after remove and we re-add her again. We can re-add her again. Perfect. And log out. See now. See if we can log in with Tess, because we added her in the root user, so we should be able to see if she's able to log in now as a new created user. Perfect, she's able to log into the system. I'll just check and see now that the reset button works. Perfect, and teacher administrator face, and just see reset, yeah, and exit system. Perfect. Security can be seen in the source code for each of the classes and their interface. Prepared statements are used in majority of the functions, and the functions are tailored by the design of the system. Here we can see the update a student grade action performed by an admin user. The admin user uses the update statement here, with prepared statement, to be able to grab the student ID, each of their subjects and their percentages, and then they're able to make a change to any of them and update it. Whereas when we look at the teacher interface, by design, a teacher who is updating a student's percentage, they are only able to update the percentage, they're not able to update the student subject. How this is carried out is by tailoring the update statement here and removing access to the subject names and only giving access to the percentages and getting the text from the text boxes and then executing an update. You can also see here that when a student grade table is clicked on by mouse, when we click on a row in the table on the application, this is used then to populate each of the text boxes up in the screen frame, so they're able to make edits to them. And here we can see how we're able to add or to get all the information from student grade table. So we use a select statement here to get it. We use an int variable here with the set data, which is a get column count, which is part of the default table model class. It is a method out of it that is able to get the total number of columns from it, and then we're able to set the row count to 0, and using a while loop with result set next, which goes down through each of the returned amount of results from our select statement. The results that will move down through each of them. For each one that moves down through, it is able to then get each piece of information from the subject table and database, and then it is able to be added to the table using the method here, add row count, from the results stat class. It is able then to add each of them rows to the table on the application, and the while loop will keep repeating that until it gets to the last result of the select statement for all the values that are returned from it. Earlier we saw that Windows testing was carried out for all the functions of the system. Other forms of testing were also carried out, such as SQL injection and broken authentication testing. Here we can see the SQL injection testing checklist that was carried out. 3 different types of SQL injection were carried out. The first one was 1 equals 1, which is true for all entries into the system where we're trying to log in, used with an OR statement. And then we have got quotation marks equals a quotation mark that would assume there's a quotation mark at the other end of the statement, which would also be proven to be true if an OR is put in front of it. And also we have a drop and drop table with the table name inserted here. So drop tables such as if we were doing the login interfaces, we would potentially be dropping drop table teacher interface or a drop teacher here to try and drop all the contents of the table. All three of these were carried out for each of the different text boxes that are present in the application system. And what is found is that every single one of them passed their SQL test. However, what was also found is that if, for instance, there was a teacher or an admin user with an email and password that was set to 1 equals 1 or quotation marks equals quotation marks that was stored in the database, as is possible because there is no validation at this point in the application, they would be able to log in with an admin email, say 1 equals 1, 1 equals 1, or an admin password of 1 equals 1, or the same with this. However, drop tables passed every single version of their testing, but again was also stored potentially sometimes as credentials for logging into the system, in which case then it still passed SQL injection, as it did not cause any returned data to the end user that was not predicted, but at the same time it was stored as data in the tables because it was not validated. Next then, we also carried out some broken authentication testing, and this was carried out by using different emails and passwords for different users on different interfaces. So first that was carried out was testing a root user's credentials on admin login, and then we went on to carry on the root user's credentials being used on the teacher login. The same was then carried out for each of the different types of users, so an admin user on the root login or an admin user on the teacher login, and then the teacher user trying to log into the root interface, or the teacher user trying to log into the administration login interface. Each of these passed successfully because of each of the login interfaces only being connected to the correct tables, so hence there was no form of broken authentication by users on the system into another interface that they should not have access to. Overall, from the project, I have developed my skills with Java, and I've learned a lot about creating an application beyond it just running in the command line. I've made many connections along the way between material I've learned in other modules such as object-oriented software engineering and secure principles and secure programming. Some limitations were seen with users and their access to data, so for example the teacher being able to access all student records when they might not need to, and if they're only or if they should only be able to access students of the classes they teach. Validation of data is not carried out in the application at present, and it will be an asset to the application now to increase security, especially against SQL injection being added as credentials to the application. There's a lot of scope for this application in the future. I would like to have added more features in this iteration. In the future, hashing and salting of sensitive data will be implemented, and data sanitization and validation. New features will be added like letter grades, possibly leaving cert points, or printing transcripts, etc. Another scope for the project that it could also be used as a form of learning tool in education. An example of this would be against, say, Damn Vulnerable Java Application or WebGoat or WebWolf, where these are used as learning tools to help with people learn cybersecurity. This application in the future and at present does show how to use prepared statements and how to use secure design principles to be able to mitigate against some of OWASP's top 10 risks at present.